And here we go. So this is the list of contents for the assembly of the co-teaching binder. And this breaks it down by tab. You'll find in tab 1 we have pre-work foundations, tab 2 unit planning, tab 3 assessments, tab 4 collaboration, tab 5 goal tracking, tab 6 parent communication, tab 7 important forms, tab 8 instructional resources, and tab 9 anecdotal records. This document, in addition to everything else I'm going to describe in the assembly of the binder, can be found in your Google Doc. So what I've done is I've just assembled each of the tabs in a regular binder. You can't see most of the tabs right now because I have the papers lying out so that I can show you them and it not be a huge hassle. But essentially I've broken it down into 2 subsections, and then I've described what should be contained in each of the subsections on a sticky note that I just cut out and then glued with, a little sticky note. So you'll find it for the first one in terms of pre-work. This just contains your vision, your contracts, your syllabus, all of the documentation, all of the participation activities that you need to do initially. And this can be found right here. This is a lot of the things that Sam described, and it's just discussing, it's just a place to hold all of the pre-discussion and to have and hold a frame of reference for what the class vision is and how things will be executed and how we can hold one another accountable in that process. So that's it for the first tab. The second tab is actually unit planning, and what's contained in that unit is the skills map, college readiness and ACT, Common Core resources, as well as lesson plans. So after the in the unit planning you can find things, some documents also that I've created and attached in the Google Doc, including the 20-minute co-teaching meeting agenda, which was just born out of the notion that a lot of co-teachers in my school were complaining about how long and how not focused co-planning time can be, and how there really obviously isn't an excess of time, so to be able to do it in 20 minutes would be great. So that again is attached on your Google Doc. If that is not a form that you feel really suits you, there's another document found on the CPS Wiki SSA link that's also included on the document, but you probably should be able to get from your schools or from your school's SSA. Just a collaborative meeting that can be used not only just for your co-teacher, but also for teams, IEP teams, or any other support team that's gathered to provide wraparound services to our students. Additionally, in this tab though is the notion of how your school plans and things that are important. So this is just a breakdown of English and reading, ACT, and Common Core standards. So obviously this should be on hold and should be available in the planning to make choices and to design your curriculum and to have a frame of reference, just so it's all in one place and you won't need to be searching for these sorts of things in the planning process. So that is tab 2. Going back to the table of contents here, underneath tab 3, which is assessments, it's really important to have a schedule of assessments, to have a grid with assessment accommodations and modifications, and then also to have a copy of each actual assessment, so that ever if a student is absent or if there's a discrepancy in grades, etc., that you can go ahead and have that information available to you so that you can make it available to parents or students. So if we go to the assessment tab here, what you'll find is a document that's been extremely helpful that is also on the Google Doc that I created. Essentially just breaks down the most common testing accommodations and modifications and leaves a space for each student's name. So what you do is you go through and you audit each of the IEPs initially so that you can remember which student needs to have extended time, and then you write the percentage of time provided, which students need it in a small group, in a separate location, directions read aloud, etc. And that has been really helpful just to remind yourself and your co-teacher of what the requirements are for those students' IEP. Additionally, I think it's really important to have just a blank calendar template to print out actual assessment dates. Obviously, this one doesn't have them on there yet, but for next year it certainly will, just to make sure that you're on the same page and that you have a frame of reference of when the next assessment is so that you can provide that information to students at all times. Okay, great. And then in the fourth tab, it's the collaboration tab, which when executed effectively, just holds collaboration logs and lesson planning logs. Okay, so there are a couple of documents provided for you here, and this includes excuse me, that was the wrong one. This includes 2 templates that you might want to use. This is again the CPS documentation required for collaboration and consultation logs, and then the co-teaching lesson plan that you could also use, and obviously this could be used in your planning tab as well. So those documents are provided to you. And last but not least, in this subsection under tab number 5 with goal tracking is just goal tracking forms. Goal tracking forms and work that models progress. If a student mastered a goal or didn't master a goal and there's an assessment that proves that, we definitely want to include that so it's available to parents and to students and for IEP meetings. The goal tracking form that I have included is just one used by CPS. Behind this tab, I'll show you, just a simple goal identify. It just lists the goal and then it gives you a pretty organized way to determine mastery criteria and whether or not the student on a specific day was able to master that goal or not. In our second subsection of tabs, I'll move a little more quickly, simply parent communication logs, which obviously are just the parent communications, important forms and strategies, and then resources and tools, and then just a place for anecdotal notes. So super quickly, because I know my time's running over here, just in parent communication logs, I included a strengths-based parent communication log format in the Google Doc. Just includes the parent and the teacher, the reason for call, and the strengths of the student, just to make sure that we're always calling and highlighting strengths before we discuss issues. And then the action steps plan, which I think are the most important parts, that on the part of the parent, the student, and the teacher to identify those things. And keeping track of all of those at one point in time. And then additionally, important forms. This is a co-teaching observation checklist, which I think is really important to have just to hold the frame of reference for when your administrators are observing you, what they should be looking for, and to make sure that we're always staying accountable on meeting the standards of this observation. It's a great tool. It's also included in the document. Then additionally, instructional resources. There's a great co-teaching document that I included that you could put in that space, and then just a space for anecdotal records. So it is, obviously anecdotal records are easy as pie, and that concludes the co-teaching binder. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.